So there are 4 players that the Yankees should consider making a trade for this offseason, and to address needs that they clearly have. And these guys would represent upgrades in a lot of areas. Obviously, I mean, there's going to be a lot of moving parts this offseason, so I could see a lot of things happening, but these guys would represent an upgrade over, and significantly boost the pitching stable, and one of them being outfield stable as well. So why don't we get into it? The first one's Zach Gallen, who's a young 25-year-old right-handed pitcher from the Arizona Diamondbacks. And he's not a free agent until 2026, so controllable years is key here for the Yankees. And the Yankees need as much pitching depth as possible. It would require, a significant prospect package. He's been pretty solid. He had a rough year this year. Not really like crazy rough, but he had a rough, a little bit of a rougher year. But he's been consistently averaging sub-3 ERA for a couple of seasons, and you add the rough season in there. It kind of throws it off a little bit, but all in all, he's been a relatively consistent pitcher. And again, he's only 25, and with being a free agent 2026, they have 4 controllable years where he can, add him. And he'd be a good number 4, number 5 guy in the rotation. And keep in mind, with Kluber likely not coming back, and Jameson Taillon having only 1 more year left of control, they need some controllable arms there. I know you have Nestor Cortes, and we've got Luis Hill still developing and whatnot, but this guy's already proven at the major league level too. So the much more controllable depth that they have from a frontline starting pitching standpoint, the better off they're going to be. The Yankees always have pitching injury issues every single year, mostly in the starting rotation. This year it was in the rotation and the bullpen, but they always have a couple starters go down, and I'm not that confident yet on Davy Garcia's coming back to a relatively high level. Not sure yet. They tinkered with his mechanics and delivery a little bit, so we'll see if that if he comes back better. Luis Hill, we have to continue to let him develop. He's young. He's only 21 years old, and Luis Severino too. Again, I've said this 100 times. I'm of the opinion he should be remain in the bullpen, but my guess is they're going to try to continue to build up his innings and get him back in the starting rotation. But that said, he's already gone down. He's had Tommy John surgery, so we know he's vulnerable at some point. So, and this is where a guy like Zach Gallen comes into play. So, and again, he's young, relatively durable pitcher, and would be a solid back end of the rotation guy, or second half of the rotation guy. Secondly would be Louise Castillo, and he's a frontline guy. And again, Garrett Cole needs a co-ace or a legitimate number 2 behind him. It can't be him and then a mile from him to the next guys. He shouldered a lot of the load this year for the starting rotation. With the exception of a rough last 4 or 5 starts, he had a really good year. So 16-8 and just over 3 RA, 245 strikeouts. So he's unquestioned ace of the team, but he still needs some co-ace type guys like a 1B or a solid number 2 behind him. And Luis Castillo is 28-year-old. He's been, relative an ace for the Cincinnati Reds for quite a few years. He had a rough start to the season, but he was back to himself in the second half. And he also has 2 more years of control. He won't be a free agent until 2024. So, getting a guy like that behind Garrett Cole would work wonders for the bullpen. And it would lessen the pressure for them having to rely on guys who are a little bit injury prone or who aren't ready to throw, 150, 160, 170 plus innings in a season. So, can't just throw Nestor Cortes to the Wolves just yet. And Luis Hill, can't expect him to go 160, 180 innings just yet. So Luis Castillo represents that guy, and who can come in and it would obviously cost a significant package, not as much as a Zach Gallen because of the years of control, but and this is the Yankees had a trade proposal. He was offered to the Yankees for Gleyber Torres straight up this past offseason, and Cashman said no. So. I could see them revisiting, or at least I would revisit this trade. And again, you could essentially have a blockbuster, trade, or potentially go after a blockbuster with either Zach Gallen and Ketel Marte, turn it into a monster trade, or even Luis Castillo and let's say Winker for their first baseman, or he'd be a nice option for first base too if the Yankees don't take another out. And we'll be getting into the first base, situation for the Yankees soon in another video, but just a thought. But at the very least, Luis Castillo will represent a significant upgrade to the rotation. Number 3 is in my offensive piece, Tyler O'Neill, a 26-year-old outfielder from the St. Louis Cardinals. And he plays all 3 outfield positions, and he's not a free agent until 2025, so you have 3 years of team control there. He's got power. He's a good contact hitter. Plus, he has speed. He stole 15 bags this year in 2021, so he has the ability to kind of, he's a multi-tool player. And some guy with good contact, who has good power and steals bases, that represents something that the Yankees don't really do much. Aaron Judge doesn't steal any bases. Stanton doesn't steal bases. Our power hitters don't really steal bases, and our base stealers aren't really stealing bases because the Yankees are not putting them in a position to do so. They're not letting them play enough. So a guy like this, who kind of checks off a lot of the boxes, would be a nice fit to the Yankee lineup. And yes, he's right-handed, so the Yankees I would still look for them to bring in another left-handed bat of some sort, particularly if they don't bring back Anthony Rizzo. But this guy would be a nice fit in the outfield. It'll also give them flexibility to move Joey Gallo either in a trade, or you can even move him to first base and let him be the left-handed guy, which will free up an outfield spot if they don't bring back Brett Gardner, and if Aaron Hicks doesn't pan out. You have a guy like this who's a young, dynamic player. Him, and I know we'd be sacrificing Gallo's arm, who's got a cannon, but again, he's got a really great glove, so I think he would transition nicely as a defensive player at first base. And it could be an option, particularly since the Yankees wouldn't, if they're not going to go after Matt Olson or bring back Rizzo, and if they're going to move Voit, then it makes sense to move Gallo to first base, unless they're going to move DJ to first base. Or if they move Gallo to first base, they can make DJ the super utility guy and go after a Chris Martin or somebody like that for the other infield spots at shortstop and whatnot, and you keep Gio at third. And then if they move Torres, it opens up different scenarios as well. But these are just some thoughts. But Tyler O'Neill would be a nice fit in pinstripes. He would really, he's a blue-collar player, plays hard. He's focused and he's in the game, and the Yankees need more guys like that. Okay? And my last guy was, and I know somebody in Daily Dose Yankees is going to appreciate this, Aaron Bummer. He's a 27-year-old left-handed pitcher who actually has, in my opinion, has similarities to Chris Sale and some Carlos Rodon. But he's a long relief spot starter, but I can see him being gradually transitioned into a more full-time starter. And you never know, he could be the middle of a line rotation guy or whatnot, or even better, who knows, depending on how he progresses. But he's under team control on a very team-friendly contract until 2027. So there are 5 years of good baseball, or controllable baseball, at a very reasonable cost for him. And with that type of team control on an affordable contract, he will cost a pretty penny. But the Yankees do have the prospects to facilitate a trade like this. And could you imagine if they brought in a guy like Bummer and and Castillo, or Bummer and Gallen, or Bummer and a guy like O'Neill, or Bummer and his teammate Carlos Rodon, to the stable. I think the Yankees will be well off considering guys like this. Plus, they're all young. They're on the right side of 30, and they have controllable years, every single one of them. Castillo's got 2 controllable years. O'Neill has 3. Gallen has 4, and Bummer has 5. Controllable years is gold in the Yankee world right now, particularly since Stanton's expensive. If they keep Judge, he's going to be very expensive. Cole is very expensive, and there's a need for guys like this to help balance out things, and so that they're not constantly going over the $210 million threshold, which Hal Steinbrenner seems very hesitant to do so on a regular basis. So this represents cost-effective options that are productive and that can be good fits on the Yankees, whether it be in the rotation or in the bullpen, or more likely the rotation, or in the lineup. So let me know what you think of these 4. I think they'd be good guys to consider. And again, they don't by not going after guys like Correa and Seager, if they don't plan on going after guys like that, they're saving boatloads of money to make multiple moves for guys like this. And they do have the prospects in the stable to get some of these guys. So I would definitely I think these are 4 guys that I think would be wise for the Yankees to consider. But you let me know who you think, what you think, and let me know if there's other guys that you think they should consider as well for trades. And give me some background on them, and let me know what you think. So my next video, I'm going to talk about the biggest guys, the biggest names in baseball who should be traded this offseason. I have in my book here, this many videos here for our enjoyment. I've got more here that I'm working on too. So we've got a lot of stuff to go over. Heading into the winter meetings and into the CBA and into the off-season, heading into spring training, and with regards to free agency and the collective bargaining agreement, there's going to be a lot of things going on, and we'll be going over talking about the playoffs and a lot of these videos in the live streams too. So so stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so and hit the notification so you don't miss any of these. So I'll be doing all kinds of predictions and all kinds of stuff. So a lot of good stuff coming. So have a great day, everybody. Go Yankees. Talk to you next time.